There is a truth known only by the monks of old, a sacred longing etched not in memory, but in the marrow of the soul. It is said, when a man meets the one chosen for his spirit, not his flesh, his soul never forgets. There is a presence not born of form, not shaped by voice or beauty, but felt like the silent moonlight resting upon still waters. It is not seen, yet it is known. Not pursued, yet it draws the spirit without force. This is the chosen presence, a resonance, a spiritual fingerprint that only the soul can recognize. In a world teeming with motion and noise, this presence arrives quietly, like a familiar silence remembered from another lifetime. When a man longs for one woman throughout the seasons of his life, it is not because she is flawless or always near. It is because something within her reflects the divine pattern he has carried within. A truth he cannot name but can never forget. Her presence does not stir possession. It stirs peace. She is not loud in his life, but she is constant in his soul. Others may distract, but only she aligns. There is an old parable from the mountain paths of Wutai where a student once asked his master, "How will I know if I found the one?" The master led him to a garden where two flowers had bloomed side by side. One was bright, colorful, and opened quickly to the sun. The other was pale and closed, appearing ordinary. The student admired the first and dismissed the second. But weeks passed and storms came. The first flower withered beneath heavy rain, yet the pale one endured, and when it finally opened, its fragrance filled the entire valley. The master smiled. One flower excites the eye, the other, over time, nourishes the soul. Which one have you truly seen? This is the way of the chosen presence. She may not always dazzle at first glance, but her soul leaves a print on a man's spirit, a mark that no time, distance, or circumstance can erase. In daily life, this presence is often overlooked in the rush of first impressions and fleeting charm. We are taught to chase what glitters, to collect experiences, to be enchanted by intensity. But the sacred feminine energy does not shout, rests, it listens. It carries storms and stillness in equal measure. And when it crosses paths with a prepared heart, longing is born, not of desperation, but of quiet knowing. Imagine walking through a forest. There are loud birds, bright petals, dazzling sun rays through the leaves. But then you come upon a clearing, empty yet deeply peaceful. You sit there without needing to speak. Hours pass unnoticed. That is her energy, the one who brings silence that feels like home. A man may forget many things, but he does not forget how she made him feel. Seen without needing to perform, welcomed without needing to arrive. In a letter from a forgotten monk in the eastern provinces of ancient Yu, it was written, "The rarest woman does not seek to be remembered. She simply exists in such a way that forgetting her becomes impossible." The presence of such a woman is a spiritual mirror. She does not complete a man, she reveals him to himself. And in this revelation, he recognizes that she is not merely someone he loves. She is the path his soul walks toward. The longing for this one woman is not romanticism. It is remembrance. And remembrance is the first light of awakening. As the river knows when to swell and when to fall, so too does the universe move in unseen rhythms, guiding lives, aligning hearts, and shaping moments. These are the cycles of universal timing, sacred intervals where fate leans closer to the earth, whispering to those who listen. It is not that time itself holds magic. It is that there are windows within time, moments where spiritual energy is more accessible, more potent, more demanding of your attention. Just as the moon controls the tide, unseen forces guide the heart. What seems like coincidence is often the quiet unfolding of divine order. This is why a man may feel pulled toward a memory, a voice, or a name, not out of emotion, but because the cycles have turned again and his soul is being summoned to revisit what it once touched. There is a tale passed down by temple scribes, rarely spoken aloud. A young monk asked his elder, "Why do I feel her presence more deeply some days than others?" The elder poured tea into 2 cups, one at sunrise and one at dusk. "Drink," he said. The younger monk drank both. "They taste different. Same leaves," the elder replied, "but the time of pouring changed their spirit. So it is with love, with insight, with divine memory. Same woman may pass through your thoughts 100 times, but only in a certain hour in a sacred cycle will your spirit fully open to receive what she meant. Between the 9th and the 12th, the veil thins. This is when the heart stirs without clear reason, when dreams become more vivid, when thoughts linger longer than logic permits. These days are not ordinary, they are portals, invitations to realign with what is true, what is sacred, what has waited patiently in the quiet corners of your destiny. In nature, we see this too. The chrysanthemum does not bloom in spring. It waits until autumn, when the air is cooler and the light gentler. Were you to force it open in summer, it would wither. But in its season, in its ordained moment, it opens in full glory. That is how timing works with the soul. Too soon, and the heart is unprepared. Too late, and the moment passes like wind through fingers. Many suffer not because they were denied love, but because they misread the cycles. They clung in droughts and withdrew in rain. They chased when they should have waited, and waited when they should have leapt. Divine timing is not passive. It requires stillness, yes, but also courage to act when the door appears. The woman a man longs for may be near, yet feel distant, or far, yet feel vividly alive within him. What changes is not her, but the cycle. And when that cycle completes its turn, he will not be able to ignore it. The air will feel different. Songs will carry her name. Silence will feel louder. These are the signs. Lao Chan, a hermit scholar from the 3rd dynasty, wrote in one of his final scrolls, "There are days when heaven leans close to earth, and if your heart is open, you will hear the one it calls you to find." These cycles are sacred not because they are convenient, but because they are aligned with the movement of your spirit's preparation. If a man awakens too early, he may resist what he is not ready to receive. If he awakens too late, he may find the door closed, though her memory remains. The universe does not force love. It prepares the heart through fire and silence, through longing and delay, so that when the soul arrives, it arrives whole. And so, as you walk through the days of each month, do not treat them as ordinary. Between the 3rd and the 6th, listen for the restlessness. It is the stirring of your deeper self. Between the 9th and 12th, notice who comes to mind. What name rises in your dreams? These are not distractions. They are messages. You are not waiting on her. You are waiting on the alignment of your spirit with the moment she represents. Let the rear rise. Let the moon speak. And when it is time, do not hesitate. She is not the destination. She is the doorway to your becoming. Comes a moment in every man's path when the heart no longer seeks what pleases the eye, but what stills the soul. This moment is not loud, not celebrated, not even always understood, but it arrives quietly, like the first snow upon a mountain, changing everything without needing to announce itself. This is the moment when the flame of recognition is lit, a silent knowing, a memory the soul never lost, though the body had forgotten. The flame does not come from desire, it comes from depth. It is not born in the eyes, but behind them. A man may encounter 100 faces in his life, some beautiful, some passionate, some generous, but only once does he meet the one whose presence feels like home before a home ever existed. There is a parable once taught by a Shaolin master, recorded in the margins of a torn scroll. A young disciple came to him and asked, How do I know if I have found the one meant for me? The master brought out 2 stones from his robe, one rough and jagged, the other smooth and glowing faintly. He said, "Carry this rough stone in your palm each day. You may grow used to it, perhaps even attached. But now carry this other." The disciple placed the glowing stone in his palm and grew quiet. His eyes softened. "This one is warm," he whispered. The master nodded, "Because it recognizes you." That is the flame. No effort, no struggle, only silent return. Such is the recognition between a man and the one who was written into the silence of his destiny. When she enters his life, not always with fireworks or thunder, sometimes with a mere glance or phrase, something awakens in him that had long been sleeping. And he may not know what to do with it, for recognition is not always joy. Sometimes it is confusion, fear, or an overwhelming sense of awe. It is being seen not for the mask worn, for the truth buried. In daily life, we are often told to choose wisely, but the flame of recognition does not operate on choice, moves by remembrance. It is not something we build, it is something we uncover. Consider the stars. They shine for millions of years before we ever look up to see them. Their light travels distances beyond our comprehension. And yet, the moment we look up on a still night and see a particular constellation, something stirs. It is not that the star appeared. It is that we finally turned toward it. That is how the soul recognizes the one meant for it. It is not new. It is finally seen. This moment often arrives between the 9th and the 12th, when spiritual energy sharpens, when the air itself feels thicker, more charged. These days are not accidental. They are what the monks call the threshold days, where the veil between memory and reality grows thin. Soul is more alert, more receptive, more willing to speak, and it speaks not in language but in feeling. You may dream of her, hear her name unexpectedly, smell a fragrance you cannot place. All of these are signs not from the world but from within. The flame is burning, recognition has occurred. The philosopher ascetic J.D. Laidi once wrote in his final manuscript, "There are truths the tongue will never speak, but the bones remember." A man may lie to the world, but never to the fire within. The recognition of the one woman a man longs for all his life is not merely about union, it is about becoming. Her presence does not merely complete him, it calls him upward. The flame is not comfort, it is awakening. And in awakening, one must also prepare for the shadow that follows the light. For every sacred connection is first tested, and this brings us to the storm. When the flame of recognition has been lit, it must pass through wind, rain, and silence. These are what the sages call the shadow of tests, the necessary trials that purify love, not by removing obstacles, by revealing intention. Between the 14th and 17th of each month, the energy turns inward. It is no longer outwardly bright, grows reflective, sometimes heavy. This is not punishment, it is preparation. In this window, a man may begin to question what he felt. He may withdraw, grow cold, or even walk away. Not because he does not care, because he is standing before a mirror that shows him parts of himself he was not yet ready to see. There is a story of a hermit monk who lived alone in the stone forests of Yunnan. One day, a stranger appeared at his cave, asking for wisdom on love. The monk gave him a bowl of crystal clear water and said, "Drink." The man did. It was fresh and cold. The monk added a handful of mud to the bowl. "Now drink," he said. The man hesitated. "It is not the same." "But it is," replied the monk. "You have only seen its surface disturbed. What you must learn is patience. The mud settles, the water clears, but only if you do not stir it again. This is what happens when the soul meets its reflection. Old wounds rise, fears are awakened, patterns reappear. This is the mud. Test is not to flee. It is to wait long enough for the clarity to return. In relationships shaped by destiny, it is common for the most profound connections to begin with confusion or retreat. For it is easier to stay asleep than to face the fire that demands transformation. From the outside, others may not understand. Why would he leave someone who stirred his soul? They ask. But they do not see the storm beneath his stillness. To long for someone is one thing. To be asked to rise for them, that is another. In the animal kingdom, the eagle builds its nest on the highest cliff, but when the time comes, it does not wait for the eaglet to learn slowly. It pushes. The eaglet must fall before it flies, and it is in the fall that its wings remember their purpose. The same happens with the soul. You must be pushed beyond your comfort to find your flight. These mid-month days are sacred for that reason. They are not to be feared, but honored. If your heart grows uncertain, if silence stretches longer than usual, if doubt enters the room, remember, this is the valley before the rise. It is written in the Reflections of Silent Pines, a collection of teachings buried during the reign of Emperor Hui. Even the sacred lotus must push through mud. It is not in bloom where its greatness lies, in its refusal to remain beneath the surface. Let the tests come. Let them reveal, not destroy. Let them strip away fantasy so that what remains is rooted, deep and true. For when the shadow passes, what follows is not the same flame. It is a refined fire, one that knows both longing and endurance. If you find yourself in this storm, breathe slowly, observe. Do not react from fear. Watch what remains when the emotions settle. The soul does not shout, it waits. And when the test is complete, and both hearts have walked through the mirror and the valley, then, and only then, does destiny open her hand. The journey from recognition to testing is not easy, but it is sacred, and it prepares you for love that is not bound by form or time, shaped by truth. The one you long for is not a prize. She is the invitation to rise. The fire has been lit. The storm has come. Now walk slowly and let fate finish its work. There are paths the feet cannot find, but the heart knows by instinct. There are voices the ears do not hear, yet the spirit responds to them with trembling certainty. This is the mystery of the intuitive pool of fate, the sacred magnetism that guides a man not toward pleasure, but toward alignment. It is not born in logic. It is felt in silence, in the space between thoughts, in the sudden stillness that settles when he sees her or hears her name whispered by a stranger wind. This pull is not something that can be explained or justified. It defies reason, as all things of the soul often do. A man may build a life, make plans, surround himself with distraction. Yet still at the center of his being, there lives a quiet ache. Not the ache of lack, but of distance. An ancient longing, like a mountain yearning for the return of spring. There is a parable preserved in the writings of a recluse monk who once wandered the forests near the Yellow River. He tells of a falcon raised among sparrows. The falcon, unaware of its own nature, grew restless as time passed. While the sparrows chirped and fluttered, the falcon would sit alone, eyes fixed on the distant sky. It did not understand why it felt incomplete, only that something unseen was calling. One day, without warning, it leapt from the branch, and in that moment its wings opened wide, and it remembered. The pool had always been there. It was not madness. It was memory. So too does a man sometimes feel stirred by a presence he cannot forget. It may be someone he once met briefly, or someone he's never spoken to, or even someone he lost long ago. Yet the energy of her presence lives within him like an echo. He moves through his days. The world feels slightly out of rhythm, as though one note in the song is always missing. When this happens, it is often not the woman herself that he misses, but what she represents in his soul's journey. In daily life, Intuition is often dismissed. We are taught to calculate, to rationalize, to weigh outcomes. But the spirit does not speak in numbers. It speaks in subtle urgencies. The sudden thought at night, the unshakable dream, quiet, knowing that something must be done even when we cannot explain why. A man walking down a city street may glance at a passing face and feel his breath catch, not because of beauty, because for a fraction of a second time folds and he remembers something he has not lived in this life. That is the pull, the invisible thread that connects hearts across lifetimes, across choices not yet made. In nature, the salmon swims upstream against impossible currents back to the place of its birth. No one teaches it the path. It follows a call deeper than instinct, an encoded wisdom entrusted by creation itself. The same call exists in the heart of a man when fate begins to summon him back toward the one who carries his reflection. Between the 18th and 21st, this intuitive pull becomes stronger. These are called the alignment days, when spiritual gravity increases. During these times, the soul seeks reunion, not necessarily with a person, but with its own purpose, often mirrored in a connection once felt and never forgotten. If you find yourself restless during these days, unable to concentrate, drawn to old memories or sudden inner clarity, do not ignore it. Sit with it. Listen. There is a forgotten line in the teachings of Anju, a wandering poet, monk of the southern mountains. When the wind changes direction, even the trees listen. So too must the heart lean when fate turns its gaze. These moments may not come with answers, but they will come with direction. Your duty is not to understand the pull. It is to honor it, to follow it with humility, knowing it leads not to a destination, but to a greater version of yourself. The one who is ready, finally, to meet love not as a desire, but as a discipline of the soul. Yet the journey is not complete with the pull alone. For even when the path is seen, one must be prepared to walk it. And this brings us to the final key, the sacred necessity of readiness. When the seasons shift and fate approaches, many are found sleeping, not because they are unworthy, but because they are unprepared. Spiritual window opens and passes, not due to cruelty, but because the soul has not yet emptied enough to receive. This is the heart of preparation for the portal, the final key that unlocks the gate between longing and arrival. Destiny will not place treasure in the hands of one who cannot carry it without breaking. The great connections, the soul, deep unions, are never merely given. They are earned through self-mastery, through stillness, through sacred waiting. There is a parable once whispered in the corridors of a monastery that no longer stands. A young monk saw a golden door in a vision. Night after night, he dreamed of it. Shimmering, silent, collegially, he searched for it, wandering across mountains, fasting, praying. At last, he came upon it. But when he reached to open it, the door turned to smoke. Heartbroken, he returned to the monastery. His teacher asked, "What did you carry when you approached the door?" "Only my desire," he said. The master nodded. That was the weight that broke the vision. Years passed. The monk grew older. He no longer dreamed of doors. He tended the gardens, the birds, learned patience. One morning, while sweeping the temple steps, he turned, and the door stood before him again. This time, he did not run. He simply bowed, and the door opened. In real life, this preparation may take the form of silence. You may be asked to wait while the other person journeys through their own valley. You may be asked to release all plans and attachments, walk without knowing, to love without owning. These are the fires that purify the soul, so that when love comes, you meet it with clean hands and a still spirit. A tree does not bear fruit the moment it is planted, spends seasons drawing nutrients from unseen roots. It faces drought, wind, insects, yet all the while It grows in silence, and when the fruit arrives, it does so suddenly, though the work was long and hidden. So too must your heart prepare, not by doing more, by becoming less afraid, less demanding, less impatient. Between the 24th and 27th, the portal opens. These are not days for action, for reflection, for deep listening. The choices you make in this window will echo. Do not rush, do not force. Allow life to show you where you are needed and who is meant to meet you. A lesser known philosopher, Zhu Luon, once inscribed the following words on the underside of a stone bridge in a forgotten village: "Fate does not knock. It waits silently at the gate until the soul within has swept the floor, lit the lantern, and made ready its table." If your heart feels quiet during these days, it is not emptiness, it is alignment. You are not being ignored. You are being invited to clear the space within so that when the divine arrives, it has somewhere to rest. In the end, what is meant for you will not pass you by, but it may wait for you to become worthy of it, not in effort, but in essence. And so we close this journey, the chosen presence, the cycles of universal timing, the flame of recognition, the shadow of tests, the intuitive pull of fate, and now the final key: readiness. All are steps upon a path that is not seen with the eyes, known in the stillness of the soul. If you are the one who longs, be patient and prepare. If you are the one being longed for, be still and shine. For what is written will find you. And when it does, may you be ready enough to receive, strong enough to hold, and wise enough to bow. The scroll closes now, not with an end, but with a beginning, one that was waiting within you all along. And now the scroll closes, not in silence, but in sacred preparation. If this message found you, it was never by accident. The dates have spoken. The winds have stirred. You are being called, not to chase, to align. Whether you are the one who longs or the one being longed for, your time has come. Let your soul remember, let your steps be steady, and when the moment returns, do not hesitate. Because this is why men long for one woman their entire lives.